Shalom, shalom, Israel. I want to give all honor, glory, and praises unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. In this video, I'm beginning to the Sabbath day, right? We cannot buy, sell, cook, or do any of our own pleasures in the Sabbath day. No sex, no working out, no riding bikes. Anything that you enjoy doing, you have to refrain from that on the Sabbath day. I'm going to start off with Exodus 20 and verse 8, and it reads, "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor, and do all thy work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates." Right? For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested on the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Right? So the Most High, He blessed the Sabbath day, which is the seventh day of the week, which is Saturday. Right? And He said on that day we cannot do any work. Why? Because He hallowed that day, meaning He separated that day from all the rest of the other days. Right? You go in the book of Genesis, the 2nd chapter, in verse 1, it reads, "Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day God ended His work which He had made. And He rested on the seventh day from all His work which he had made." Right? And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it He had rested from all His work which God created and made. Right? So the Most High rested on the seventh day, right? And He sanctified that day, right? He hallowed that day. He separated that day from all the other days of the week, right? When you look at the calendar, you can clearly see that Sunday is the first day of the week. Saturday is the seventh day. So these churches been lying, telling you to come to church on Sunday and keep the Sabbath, but the Sabbath of the Most High in the Bible is Saturday, which is the seventh day of the week, right? Let me keep going. Let me get Exodus 23 and 2, because we cannot work and do anything on the Sabbath day unless you're studying, gathering together with fellow Israelites to study. Other than that, you gotta stay in the house, study, rest, and things of that nature. Watch Israelite videos, right? No cooking, no buying, no selling, none of those things. Let's get Exodus 23 and verse 12. And it reads, 6 days thou shalt do thy work. Right? So the Most High gave us 6 days to do our work, right? From Sunday to Friday before the sun goes down. Because Friday evening to Saturday evening is the Sabbath. It says 6 days thou shalt do thy work, and on the seventh day thou shalt rest, that thine ox and thine ass may rest, and the son of thy handmaid and the stranger may be may be refreshed. Right? So the Sabbath day is a day of rest. Let's get Leviticus 23. Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 3. It says, 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of rest and holy convocation. Ye shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. Right? So wherever you're dwelling at, no matter where you're at, you have to keep the Sabbath day. Right? He said in all your dwellings. He said do not do any work on the Sabbath day. Right? So you have to call off of work that day. It's best to always talk to, your boss and, ask them if you can have that day off permanently. Right? Friday evening to Saturday evening. That way you're able to keep the Sabbath day. Right? No work should be done in that day. You cannot work for money that day. You cannot do any thing that's gonna bring forth burdens. Right? You have to just study, be in the Word, be at home, right, resting. That's why the Most High gave us that day to rest. Let me get Nehemiah chapter 10 and 31. So like if I'm reading kind of fast, for some reason YouTube only gave me a certain time limit. So I'm trying to get as many precepts as I can. 10 and 31. And it reads, "And if the people of the land bring ware or any victual on the Sabbath day to sell, that we will not buy it of them on the Sabbath day." It's like on the Sabbath or on the holy day, right? So on the Sabbath day or on high holy days, right? We would not buy or sell, right? There would be people that would bring in things to sell to us, but we would not buy it of them on the Sabbath day. And that we would leave the 7th year and the exaction of every debt, right? So we will not buy anything on the Sabbath day. We still cannot buy on the Sabbath day, right? The laws are not done away with. This is a commandment of the Most High God to keep this day holy, right? Let me get Nehemiah 13 and verse 22. It's like at 15. And it reads, "In those days saw I in Judah some treading the wine presses on the Sabbath, and bringing sheaves and lading asses, as also wine, grapes, and figs, and all manner of burdens, which they brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. And I testified against them in the day wherein they sold victuals." Right? Verse 16. "There dwelt men of Tyre also therein, which brought fish." Right? So they were bringing all type of burdens. They were bringing all type of things to try to sell on the Sabbath day. He said the men of Tyre was also bringing fish to sell on the Sabbath day, and all manner of ware, and sold on the Sabbath unto the children of Judah and in Jerusalem. Then I contended with the nobles of Judah and said unto them, What evil thing is this that ye do, and profane the Sabbath day?" Right? So Nehemiah is asking them, what is this wickedness that you're doing, coming in on the Sabbath day, trying to sell fish and all these victuals that you're coming in with? We can't buy or sell on the Sabbath. Right? So all these heathen, they will come in and try to sell to us. He says, what evil thing is this that ye do, and profane the Sabbath day? Did not your fathers thus? He said, didn't your fathers do the same thing and sin? And did not our God bring all this evil upon us? Right? Because when our people broke the Sabbath day, the Most High brought evil upon them. Right? And upon this city, yet ye bring more wrath upon Israel by profaning the Sabbath. Right? So by buying and selling on the Sabbath, you're bringing wrath upon ourselves, right? Upon the Israelites, because the Most High said for us not to buy or sell on the Sabbath, right? And it came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Sabbath, I commanded that the gates should be shut, right? So he commanded for the gates of Jerusalem to be shut, that way no one comes in to try to sell or buy, and charged that they should not be open until after the Sabbath, right? So they'll close the gates until the Sabbath is over. And some of my servants said I at the gates, that there should no burden be brought in on the Sabbath day, right? So there were certain servants set at the gates to make sure nobody's coming in with burdens. So the merchants and sellers and all kind of ware lodged without Jerusalem once or twice, right? Then I testified against them and said unto them, Why lodge ye about the wall? If ye do so again, I will lay hands on you. From that time forth came they no more on the Sabbath. Right? So Nehemiah told him, I'm gonna lay hands on you. You come in here trying to buy sell stuff to my people on the Sabbath. You guys trying to buy, right? He told them, I'm gonna lay hands on you. So they came no more to try to sell on the Sabbath. Right? Let's get Exodus 16 and 22. Exodus chapter 16 and verse 22. And it reads, And it came to pass on the 6th day, they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for 1 man. And all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moses, and he said unto them, This is that which the Lord hath said. Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto the Lord. Bake that which ye will bake today, and seethe that which ye will seethe. And that which remaineth over lay up for you to be kept until the morning. So, Moses told them to gather, all that they were going to eat for that day. And Salakia, to cook that what they were going to cook for that day, and whatever remaineth over, to keep it for the next day. Because on the Sabbath, you can't cook, right? So then they will already have food there, and they can just eat that which they had cooked the day before, right? Which is the same thing we have to do now. You can cook Friday before the sun goes down. If you want to eat cooked food, you lay it up, and then you can eat it cold on the Sabbath day, right? On Saturday. If not, you can buy sandwiches and eat sandwiches, fruit, salads, things like that. But no cooking, no fire, right? It says, and they laid it up till the morning as Moses bade, and it did not stink, right? Because the Most High, he allowed that food not to go bad, so that they can eat it on the Sabbath. Neither was there any worms therein, right? And Moses said, eat that today, for today is the Sabbath unto the Lord. Today ye shall not find it in the field, right? So if they was to go out in the field to try to find any of this bread, right, it wouldn't be anything there, because they were supposed to gather it the day before, right? Verse 26, 6 days ye shall gather it, but on the seventh day, which is the Sabbath, in it there shall be none. So he told them 6 days to gather, right? And on the Sabbath day, there ain't going to be nothing there. So don't even go out and try to look for it, right? Verse 27, and it came to pass that there went out some of the people on the Sabbath day for to gather, and they found none, right? So some didn't even listen, and they went out anyways to try to find this bread, and there was nothing there for them, right? They couldn't follow a simple commandment of the Most High. He told them to go out 6 days and gather, and on the seventh day, to not go out, right? On that 6th day to gather twice as much, so you can have some for the Sabbath. Verse 28, and the Lord said unto Moses, how long refuse ye to keep my commandment and my laws, right? So they got the Most High angry by not keeping his commandment and his laws, right? And he gave them the set order and how to do it. You had 6 days to gather, right? On that 6th day, gather double, right? Lay it up so you can eat it on the next day. And they couldn't follow that simple thing, right? Let's get Exodus 35. Exodus 35. 35 and verse 1. And Moses gathered all the congregation of the children of Israel, and said unto them, these are the words which the Lord hath commanded, that ye should do them. 6 days shall work be done, but on the 7th day there shall be to you an holy day, right? A Sabbath of rest to the Lord, right? It's a Sabbath of rest to the Lord. We have to rest that day. Whosoever doeth any work therein shall be put to death. The Most High said, if you do any work on this day, you're going to be put to death, right? Verse 3, ye shall kindle no fire throughout your habitations upon the Sabbath day. So no cooking, right? No lighting up the stove, trying to cook you, warm up some food. No microwaves, none of that stuff. You have to stay away from it. You have to eat cold foods. If you want to eat something cooked, cook it the day before, and you have to eat it cold, right? You can't warm it up. Let me get verse. Yeah, that's what I wanted on that. Let me get Exodus 31. Exodus 31 and 12. And it reads, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, verily my Sabbaths ye shall keep, right? So we have to keep the Sabbaths. For it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that ye may know that I am the Lord that doeth sanctify you, right? He says, ye shall keep the Sabbaths therefore, for it is holy unto you. Everyone that defileth it shall surely be put to death. So if you defile the Sabbath day, Most High say you'll be put to death, and you will be defiling the Sabbath day by cooking on the Sabbath, doing any of your own pleasures, having sex on the Sabbath, cooking on the Sabbath, working out on the Sabbath, going for a jog on the Sabbath. Anything that you take pleasure in, you have to stay away from those things, or you're going to defile the Sabbath, right? It says, for whoso doeth any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. So you cannot work on the Sabbath day. You have to take that day off of work, right? 6 days may work be done, but in the seventh it is a Sabbath of rest, holy to the Lord. Whosoever do any work in the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death. Right? He tells us multiple times that you will be put to death for working on the Sabbath day. Right? That's how important this is. Verse 16, wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath to observe the Sabbaths, so like observe the Sabbath throughout their generations for a perpetual covenant. So we have to observe the Sabbath day throughout our generation, right? We're still on earth. Our people are still generating. We have to keep this for a perpetual covenant. So we have to keep the Sabbath. 6 days you work, 7 days you have to rest, right? No cooking, no cleaning, no own pleasures, right? Verse 17, it is a sign between me and thy children of Israel forever. For in the 6 days the Lord had made heaven and earth, and on the 7th day he rested and was refreshed. Right? 6 days you work, 7th day you have to rest. Right? Let me get Ezekiel 20 and 12. Ezekiel 20, Salakia. Ezekiel chapter 20 and verse 12. Moreover, I gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign between me and them, that they might know that I am the Lord that sanctified them. Right? Verse 13. But the house of Israel rebelled against me in the wilderness, that they walk not in my statutes, and they despise my judgments, which if a man do, he shall even live in them. Right? And my Sabbaths they greatly polluted. Then I said, I would pour out my fury upon them in the wilderness to consume them. Right? So they got the Most High angry by breaking the Sabbath. Right? Let's get Numbers 15 and 32. Verse 15 and verse 32. And it reads, and while the children of Israel were in the wilderness, they found a man that gathered sticks upon the Sabbath day. Right? So the children of Israel, they're in the wilderness. They found a guy picking up sticks on the Sabbath, right? Breaking the Sabbath. And they that found him gathering the sticks brought him unto Moses and Aaron and into all the congregation. So they got this man, they took him to Moses, Aaron, and to the congregation of Israel. And they put him inward because it was not declared what should be done to him, right? And the Lord said unto Moses, the man shall surely be put to death, and all the congregation shall stone him with stones without the camp, right? And all the congregation brought him without the camp and stoned him with stones, and he died, as the Lord commanded Moses, right? So the Most High commanded this man to be put to death for picking up sticks on the Sabbath, right? So if you're cooking and you're cleaning, having sex, and doing your own pleasure on the Sabbath day, that's much worse than picking up sticks on the Sabbath. So you already know what's the punishment for that, right? Jeremiah chapter 17 and 20. That's why it's important to obey the scriptures, obey the Most High. Salakia. Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 20. And say unto them, hear ye the word of the Lord, ye kings of Judah and all Judah, and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, that enter in by these gates. Thus saith the Lord, take heed to yourselves, and bear no burden on the Sabbath day, nor bring it in by the gates of Jerusalem. Neither carry forth a burden out of your houses on the Sabbath day. Neither do ye any work, but hallow ye the Sabbath day, as I commanded your fathers. Right? So you cannot lift anything heavy on the Sabbath day. You can't do any type of burdens, right? No lifting heavy things, no working out, no doing anything you ain't supposed to be doing on the Sabbath. You should only supposed to be resting and being in these scriptures and eating, right? Let me get Isaiah 58. Isaiah 58. 58 and 13. And it reads, If thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy of the Lord honorable, and shall honor him, not doing thy own ways, right? You can't do your own ways, nor finding thy own pleasure. Can't do your own pleasure, nor speaking thy own words. Not speaking your own words. You got to speak thus saith the Lord. 1 Peter 4 and 11. If any man speak, let him speak the oracles of God. Then shalt thou delight thyself in the Lord, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father. For the mouth of the Lord has spoken it, right? And when you look at this word pleasure, let's look at this word pleasure real quick. Let's get a verbs on pleasure. It says, used to be entreated for entertainment rather than business. Verb, give sexual enjoyment or satisfaction, right? So no sex on the Sabbath day, right? You can't do anything that's of entertainment, anything that's not has nothing to do with the scriptures. You shouldn't be doing it, right? Matthew 12. It's like if I'm reading fast, I'm trying to get as many precepts before the time cuts off. Matthew chapter 12. It's like, yeah. Matthew 12 and 9. Matthew 12 and 9. And when he was departed thence, he went into their synagogue, and behold, there was a man which had his hand withered. And they asked him, saying, Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath day? That they might accuse him. And he said unto them, right? So these certain men, they went into the synagogue, right? And they asked, Is it lawful for Yahushua to heal on the Sabbath day? Right? Because they wanted to accuse Yahushua of breaking the Sabbath, right? Verse 11, and he said unto them, What man shall there be among you that shall have one sheep, and if it fall into a pit on the Sabbath day, will he not lay hold on it and lift it out? Right? So he said, what man there be among you, right? If he has sheep and one falls into a pit, he said, will you not help that sheep out? Right? You're going to leave the sheep in the pit to die, right? He said, how much then is it better than man? Shalaki, how much then is a man better than a sheep, right? Wherefore it is lawful to do well on the Sabbath days, right? So it's lawful to do well on the Sabbath days, right? If it's an emergency, right? You had children, they get sick, they need to go to the hospital or anything like that, it's lawful to do, well on the Sabbath day, right? If someone needs help on the Sabbath day, if it's an emergency, you can help them. You fall, you break your leg, you bust your head, whatever the case may be. If it's something to where you have to get immediate assistance and help, then it's lawful to do those things and to help also a fellow Israelite in that time and in that time, right? Because it's lawful to do well on the Sabbath. Isaiah 56 and 2. It reads, Blessed is the man that doeth this, and the son of man that layeth hold on it, that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it, and keeping his hand from doing any evil. Right? So don't pollute the Sabbath day, right? And keep your hand from doing any evil. Right? You have to keep that day holy unto the Most High God. Right? Hebrews 4 and 10. Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 10. And it reads, For he that is entered into his rest, he also hath ceased from his own works. Right? So when you entering into the Sabbath day, you're entering into the Most High God's rest. Right? Because the Most High God rested on the Sabbath day. So we're entering into his rest as God did from his. Right? So if you're breaking the Sabbath day, you're defiling the Sabbath, you're disturbing the Most High's rest. Right? That's why he said, if you do any work therein, you're going to be put to death on that day. you causing any burdens upon that day, the Most High is going to put you to death, because you're entering into his rest and you're disturbing him. All right. It says, let us labor, therefore,